This video will explore 3 ways of doing ethics. Normative ethics is a very traditional way of doing ethics. Until the 19th century, normative ethics was the most common form of ethics. The starting point is in working out what is good and what is bad, which behaviours are right and which are wrong. The moral guidelines for this might come from a culture, society or religion, for example the Christian tradition, or from a philosophical way of thinking. Lots of ethical theories are normative. One type of normative ethics is teleological ethics. The word telos means end in Greek, so teleological ethics is concerned with the ends of the decision-making process. In other words, it takes into account the intended consequences of the action. Teleological ethics is known as consequentialist. An action is not right or wrong in itself, but right or wrong with regard to the outcome, the consequence. To oversimplify an example, if an action causes pain, it is wrong. If it causes happiness, it is good. Utilitarianism and situation ethics are also teleological ethical theories. There are some issues with the teleological approach, as we can never be sure that our intended outcomes will happen. Also, do all ends justify all means? Say, in a hostage situation, the murder of a baby would save the lives of thousands of people. Would it be the right thing to do? Are some things simply too bad that they are wrong, whatever the noble result? Another type of normative ethics is called deontological ethics, which holds that the action itself is intrinsically right or wrong, regardless of the consequences. The act itself should be the defining factor in any decision-making process. There is a fixed set of rules which determines what is right or wrong. One example would be that the act of murder is intrinsically wrong and therefore can never be justified. Pacifists claim that all violence is wrong, whatever the circumstances. Deontologists can take a strong moral stance on particular decisions, such as abortion, but are inflexible with these rules. They do not take account of specific situations or circumstances, different cultures or religions, or different outlooks on life. Natural moral law and Kantian ethics are examples of deontological ethics. Descriptive ethics looks to existing understandings of moral dilemmas and describes what is said about the dilemma. It looks at different religious traditions, philosophical perspectives, societies or cultures to see what they have to say on a given issue. It might also be described as moral sociology or moral anthropology. It might compare different traditions. One example of a question used by descriptive ethics might be, what do Christian and Muslim traditions teach about caring for the environment? Going on to describe the teachings of those traditions that relate to the issue. Meta-ethics is a modern development in ethical theory, which takes into account the meaning of the language of ethics. We might look at the word good, for example. The philosopher G.E. Moore thought that there was a difference between good actions and goodness itself. An action might be good because it is kind, but kindness is not the same as goodness. On this understanding, the word good takes on a moral overtone. Unlike when we describe a pen as a good pen, and we just mean that it is superior to some other pens we've used, if we describe a person as a good person, we are adding an ethical dimension. 2 key parts of looking at the language of ethics through meta-ethics are to think about how we know right from wrong, and to know what moral knowledge is. There are 2 different understandings of moral language. Some philosophers think that the language of ethics refers to exactly the same things, whether we talk about ethics or other things in the world. Moral statements refer to facts about the world, just as other statements of fact do. Other people say they are a kind of emotion, which doesn't mean anything more than that. Some people think that moral knowledge comes to us in a different way, perhaps through intuition. Some people argue that moral statements make us behave in a certain way and want other people to do similarly. These are the three ways of doing ethics. We will look at a few thinkers of meta-ethics. In the 17th century, with the rise of modern science, the idea emerged that morals were linked to scientific knowledge. It was thought that the more we knew about the natural world, the more we would know about natural moral order. The naturalist F.H. Bradley argued that the more we knew about our place in society, the more we would know about our moral duties. The rise of naturalism influenced meta-ethical theories, which opposed the thinking of naturalism. The philosopher G.E. Moore argued that moral judgments are not based on scientific knowledge, but on an innate, intuitive knowledge of good things. He argued that using the word good in a philosophical discussion about ethics was not valid because good could not be defined. This is called the naturalistic fallacy. It is not possible to say what we mean by the word good. He believed that moral judgments were not made like scientific judgments, but by intuition. Some claim that it is not possible to have any knowledge of morality. A.J. Ayer claimed that moral statements are not factual at all. They have no basis in fact, but are expressions of feelings, emotions, and sentiments. People have different feelings about issues. Another emotivist, C.L. Stevenson, did not go so far. He claimed that although moral statements are not factual statements, they do have a basis in fundamental beliefs and values, and are not just feelings. Another meta-ethical thinker, R.M. Hare, argued that moral language was much more than a means of expressing emotion or feeling. It is prescriptive. In other words, we want to apply them to others, and they are universal in that way. What do you think about the language of morality? Does it have a claim to be factual, or is it just thoughts and feelings?